Why the quietest people often hold the most power. How many times have you felt pressure to speak up, to share your opinion, to explain yourself, just to be heard? And how many times did that end up working against you? In a world that rewards noise, the ones who say less often understand the most. You've seen them. The ones who sit back in meetings and don't rush to speak. The ones who don't raise their voices during arguments. The ones who seem detached but somehow always end up one step ahead. They're not passive. They're patient. They're not shy. They're selective. And more often than not, they hold the real power in the room. It's not what they say. It's what they don't say. We live in a culture of constant commentary, everyone with a voice, a platform, an opinion. We are conditioned to believe that silence is weakness, that saying nothing means you have nothing to offer. But true wisdom often arrives unannounced, quietly, carefully, without seeking applause. The philosopher Lao Tzu once said, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." At first glance that feels extreme. But look closer, and you'll start to see the pattern. The more you talk, the more you reveal. The more you reveal, the more predictable you become. And predictability is the enemy of power. The quiet observer doesn't just hear what you say, they watch how you say it. They pay attention to the tremble in your voice, the fidget in your hand, the hesitation before you respond. They gather information not from your words, but from your presence. They notice who looks at whom before they speak, who dominates the room and who disappears into it, who masks their anxiety with a smile, and who hides their anger behind politeness. While everyone else is performing, they are decoding. And in that stillness they gain leverage. This doesn't mean they are emotionless or manipulative, but they've learned that silence creates space, and in that space people reveal themselves. The ancient Stoics believed that control over the self is the highest form of strength. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and philosopher, journaled about this daily. He knew that reacting emotionally gave others power over him. So he trained himself, not to suppress emotions but to observe them, to delay his response, to choose his silence over regrettable words. Because once you speak, you no longer own the narrative. Your words can be twisted, your tone misinterpreted, your intent questioned. But silence? Silence belongs to you alone. In relationships, arguments, negotiations, silence is a powerful weapon. Not as manipulation but as positioning. When someone is trying to provoke you, silence denies them the reaction they want. When someone is trying to impress you, silence makes them work harder. When someone is unsure of your stance, silence makes them guess. And in guessing, they often reveal more than they intended. Think about chess. The most dangerous pieces aren't the ones that move fast, but the ones that move silently, with strategy. The queen glides across the board with quiet precision. The king says nothing, and yet the whole game revolves around him. The same is true in life. The loudest voices aren't necessarily the most confident. In fact, the need to constantly speak, post, explain, and react often comes from insecurity. But those who are comfortable with silence, they aren't looking for approval. They're not desperate to be understood. They're already in control. You see, silence isn't emptiness, it's clarity. It's a space where you can listen, learn, and lead without needing the spotlight. When you speak only when it adds value, your words carry weight. People lean in when you finally do speak, because they've learned something rare. When you speak, it's intentional. But here's the paradox: silence is uncomfortable, especially in a world addicted to stimulation. Try it. Try sitting in a room with no phone, no music, no conversation, just you and your thoughts. Most people can't go 5 minutes, because silence forces you to confront yourself. And that is the real reason why so many avoid it. But those who master silence, master themselves. They don't just observe others. They observe their own patterns. They notice their emotional triggers. They catch the moment before the anger rises. They see the urge to interrupt, and let it pass. This is not passive living. This is power through presence. Now let's be clear, silence doesn't mean isolation. It doesn't mean disengaging from the world. It means choosing your moments with purpose. Sometimes speaking up is essential. Sometimes silence can be mistaken for indifference. But when used wisely, silence speaks volumes. It signals discipline. It shows restraint. It creates mystery. And mystery, my friend, is magnetic. Because what we can't fully understand, we respect just a little more. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room to be the most powerful. You just have to know when to speak, and when to wait.